Welcome to another Railfan Dan production. Enjoy this intro. This is the most breathtaking railroad subdivision in the Northwest, in my opinion, Union Pacific's Ayer Subdivision in eastern Washington. This doesn't cover the entire Ayer Sub, but it will cover the most spectacular locations. We will first see Ankeny and head south to Hooper, then into the Palouse River Canyon, Lyons Ferry with the Joso Viaduct, Matthew and Scott along the Snake River, and a bit farther south we will see some action in Wallula and a scene at Port Kelly. The Ayer Sub is also called UP's Washi Line by us Northwest folks. I inquired as to the origin of that name, but a friend who was a local said he knew it as the Washi for many decades and is not sure where it came from. I believe the name does relate to Washington State itself. We are actually north of Ankeny, Washington here, looking at an old location called Mac. This first catch is a southbound UP potash train which came from the Canadian Pacific in Canada, or should I now say the CPKC. Many trains come in and out of Canada from Idaho on the UP Spokane subdivision, so it's very common to capture Canadian Pacific power. Most of the trains in this video have Canadian Pacific units. As you can see, this is a decently rugged section of railroad and a location I have wanted to film for years. I'm very happy to be bringing this scene to all of you. Subscribe and hit the bell if you're enjoying so far. Above the UP main line is the old right-of-way of the SP&S line between Pasco and Spokane, which was abandoned in 1987. Both rail lines parallel each other for a number of miles here. Cruising through Tunnel 17 now, and one of the main reasons I've always wanted a shot here. I was lucky because the Mavic 3 Pro was at full throttle and just barely keeping ahead of the train throughout this section. It's somewhere around 45 miles per hour. Spring is also just beginning to become evident in this scene and throughout the video, with the grass starting to turn shades of green. The best time to visit the region in my opinion. Now add Ankeny itself here with a short spur track on the other side of the main. The The SPNS line above is about to make for a spectacular backdrop. This is the Cow Creek Viaduct of the old SPNS crossing the Cow Creek. It sure is a shame this line was abandoned. There are several breathtaking massive viaducts like this one along the line. A variety of very neat things happening here. The UP tunneling under the SPNS at Tunnel 16 for a crossover of the railroads, and then just beyond and around the corner you will see an old SPNS tunnel. It's some rugged railroading all around. That was about a 4-mile chase and maybe the longest I've ever done. Hooper is only about 6 miles south of the spot we left the previous train. You are now looking at a southbound UP grain train, but again appears to be a Canadian Pacific train because of the power. It's another that was sent out of Canada. This is also the location of Hooper Junction, which connects the UP and the PCC Railroad, which is the second rail line you see below to the right. The PCC stands for the Palouse River and Coulee City Railroad. Let's take a quick look at one of their trains here crossing the Palouse River. This is the PCC Colfax turn train, which runs from Colfax, Washington and ends here at Hooper. I spent the morning chasing this train from Colfax and have a lengthy video of that chase on my channel, which I have linked in the description. I recommend you give it a look. The PCC crew wrapped up their work for the day here, and the southbound grain train showed up within an hour after that. This is Hooper Junction itself, where the two railroads connect. Now the UP main line takes a turn crossing the Palouse River. Next is my favorite scene in this video. This is south of Hooper by only about 7 miles. We are in the Palouse River Canyon at a railroad location named Park with the southbound UP Manifest train crossing the Palouse River. This is also just north of the magnificent Palouse Falls, which is one of my favorite waterfalls. A shot of a train over this bridge is one that I never knew if I would achieve. It is extremely difficult to pull off, even with a drone. This whole scene features what I believe to be the most rugged section of railroad in the Northwest. It is outstanding what they built here. I have a couple older videos through this section of railroad, but with the advancements in drone tech, this is my best one yet. This is a Edmonton, Alberta to Hinkle, Oregon Manifest train, which is again why it looks like a Canadian Pacific train. We begin to see what makes this so rugged. It's a slow descent here, and the right-of-way trenches deeper and deeper into the rock the farther south it goes, along with the jagged zigzagging of the river below. The centerpiece of the region appears, Palouse Falls in all its glory, and it really has a good flow going here. Normally it is difficult to get a shot of it and the railroad together, but a drone makes it possible. Just ahead is a series of 5 tunnels that cut right through the rock, and why I think this is the most rugged section of railroad in the Northwest. I was only able to get 4 of the tunnels in this video. This region just takes my breath away. Let me know in the comments if you think a railroad traverses a more rugged section in the Northwest than this. Our next location is another breathtaking spot and only about 5 miles farther south from where we left the last train. We're at Lyons Ferry, which is home to the massive Joso Viaduct. This colossal structure is 3,920 feet long and about 200 feet above the surface of the Snake River below. Completed in 1914 by a subsidiary of the Union Pacific, the Oregon-Washington Railroad and Navigation Company. The information I have researched says it was actually the tallest and longest railroad bridge in the world when it was built. This is actually the same southbound potash train we saw in the beginning at Ankeny. Under normal circumstances, it would be very difficult to catch a train at Ankeny and then drive here and catch it at the viaduct as well, but a 10-mile-per-hour slow order between Hooper and the Palouse River Canyon allowed me to film it in both locations. I hadn't actually even planned to get it here again. It just happened by accident. Happy accident. The rail line below is Union Pacific's line east to Riparia on the Snake River, which connects to the Great Northwest Railroad in Lewiston, Idaho. The two lines connect about 2 miles ahead. On the other side of the bridge is the Lyons Ferry Fish Hatchery, and directly behind the camera is where the Palouse River flows into the Snake River, which I failed to capture during this scene. Sorry about that. Here's a ground shot from where I was standing across the river and flying that whole time. About 17 miles farther south along the Snake River, we are just barely south of Matthew for a southbound UP grain train, which once again was a CPKC train that was handed to the UP at the US-Canada border. Here's where I was standing and flying from. The old abandoned SPNS line makes an appearance in this area again. It's on the other side of the river, and way in the distance you can see the viaduct over Burr Canyon. The next train we will begin to watch right where the rear of this train is. Approaching Scott, this southbound UP Spokane, Washington to Hinkle, Oregon manifest is coming around the same curve we just saw the grain train. I never thought I would witness this glorious river in such a calm state and give off such a magnificent reflection. From this angle we can see another viaduct of the SP&S, this one over Wilson Canyon. This is by far the most breathtaking reflection scene I have ever captured in my rail fanning years. I couldn't be more satisfied with what you're about to see. This is where I was standing for that flight. Moving on much farther south, we are just north of Wallula and actually taking a small detour from the Ayer sub. The UP calls this their Yakima subdivision, but it's also known as the Callan Lead, and it's a connection between both Pasco and Kennewick to Wallula. This train is the BNSF's low-line local, which just came out of Pasco. It is heading for the junction at Wallula, where it will jump onto the Ayer sub and head north to Ayer itself. The BNSF has trackage rights on the Ayer sub from Wallula to Ayer. They take advantage of this to interchange with the Great Northwest Railroad at Ayer. The Great Northwest Railroad brings cars in and out of Ayer from Lewiston, Idaho. This image can give you some idea of what that looks like following the black line from Wallula to Lewiston. Simply put, BNSF from Wallula to Ayer and the Great Northwest from Lewiston to Ayer. This fill crosses the McNary Wildlife Refuge. It was also great to catch a pair of SD40 units pulling this train. The Ayer sub is directly east of here, and if you look way out there, you can see a southbound manifest train moving towards Wallula as well. I did not notice this until way later watching this video on a larger screen. We will take a look at that train after this one. Now at Wallula itself, the BNSF low-line local has entered the Ayer sub and is slowly starting to head north to Ayer. The Packaging Corporation of America dominates the scene at Wallula. Both the BNSF and the UP bring cars to and from the small yard to the south of here, and Watco switches the facility itself. The Columbia River also takes up a major portion of the backdrop. This screenshot gives a better look at everything going on. We previously saw this train up near two rivers along the fill over the water heading south, and they are now swooping north on the UP mainline. Here at the dead end is myself and a few other rail fan buddies. Now south of Wallula, you're looking at the train we saw way in the distance when chasing the BNSF low-line local. This is a southbound UP Edmonton, Alberta to Hinkle, Oregon manifest. The Packaging Corporation of America farther away but still looking huge. They're crossing the Walla Walla River, which then immediately flows into the Columbia River. Across the Columbia is the BNSF Fallbridge Subdivision, and it looks like a train is sitting in Yellow Pit siding. These two rocks that stick straight up are called Twin Sisters Rock. Approaching Port Kelly now. I never get tired of giant rock faces like these here, and the little bit of spring green color really adds to it all. If you look close, you can see the Packaging Corporation of America facility still visible almost 7 miles away. The border of Oregon is less than a mile away at this point. You might be thinking, my gosh Dan, how did you fly and chase this train for so long? My buddy Jason had the idea to pace from Wallula as far as we could along the river. I couldn't turn that down. Here I am hopping out of the chase vehicle we paced the train in that whole time. Now if you like, you can go back and see if you can spot his truck at different points during the pace. He did a great job. Let's wrap up the video with one more train at the Joso Viaduct. I thought it would be a good note to close on. This is actually the same train we just saw during that long pace from Wallula. I caught it here previously, and it was also following not too far behind that potash train we also saw here and at Ankeny. Sometimes rail fans will sit here for hours and not see a train, so fortune was very much on my side to catch two within an hour. This video was filmed over 3 days worth of time, and none of those days were even fully dedicated to the Ayer sub. I am so beyond satisfied with everything I walked away with in that amount of time. If you've enjoyed this video, then consider helping the channel out with a super thanks donation via the thanks button on the bottom of the video. It tremendously helps to continue bringing you quality content like this, but please also do not feel obligated to do so. Your viewership is all the support I could hope for. You can find more videos from this trip to Washington in my Eastern Washington 2024 playlist. It includes a look at BNSF's Providence Hill, the PCC Shortline Railroad, and some short segment videos from this video itself. Thanks for watching, and check out more videos on my channel of cinematic trains.